Hello everyone, welcome to Ballinasloe Library for World Storytelling Day. Every year in March 20th, World Storytelling Day celebrates the art of oral storytelling. Today, Galway Public Libraries, in association with Galway 2020, Storytellers of Ireland and Fest, are delighted to welcome you to Scéalaíocht Storia Contes, a feast of storytelling and storytellers, musicians and singers from across Europe and Ireland. Our sessions today include stories for children, stories for adults, and a conversational session with our 5 storytellers, moderated by the wonderful Nuala Hayes. Our storytellers are Monique Burg from Périgord region in south of France, Paola Bardi and Davide Bardi from Raccontamiunastori in Italy. And from Ireland, we have Órla of Spontaneous Theatre and Máirín Lochlainn as Rossaville i Gunamara. Today is a day to let the magic in. Listen to the stories from our wonderful storytellers, enjoy the foot-tapping music from our musicians, and join all who are tuned in to World Storytelling Day. I would now like to introduce Máirín from Galway 2020 and Nuala Hayes from Storytellers Ireland to say a few words in celebration of World Storytelling Day.
Galway 2020 are absolutely delighted to be part of World Storytelling Day in a place like Galway where stories are told every day and celebrated every day through everyday life. Storytelling is one of the most ancient of art forms, one of the oldest. And what I love is the narratives everywhere, and the different celebrations of culture and how stories change and evolve down through the years, from generation to generation, from the young to the old, from the old to the young, and the transition and meandering ways in which a story will find and eventually evolve, but always through the voice of the master storyteller. And we're honoured and really delighted to be part of this project and to share in intercultural dialogue across Europe with so many partners, and to share an expression of our culture with all of you, and the celebration of mother tongue, because it's one of the few true art forms that really, really connects us all. So a sincere thanks to everybody who's worked so hard on this project, to the amazing storytellers, and to our wonderful partners. The entire programme at the Galway 2020 European Capital of Culture programme is based on partnership and collaboration. And we couldn't do any of this without our partners and collaborators, our artists and our makers. So to all of you, a sincere thank you, but in particular to the County Library Service and the effervescent and wonderful woman that is Josephine Bardi, to Storytellers Ireland, to Fest, and to all of the storytellers in particular taking part, and to all of you for joining us. Gur míle maithagi.
Díomh agus fáilte roimh lá Scéalaíocht Storia. World Storytelling Day today is a global celebration of oral storytelling. Today is the day. If you have a story to tell, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody else. My name is Nuala Hayes, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of Storytellers of Ireland, Éas Scéalaíocht. This is our banner. Storytellers of Ireland is an all-island organisation with members from North, South, East and West of Ireland, which welcomes anybody who is interested in the ancient art of storytelling and keeping it alive. All over the world, no matter what age we are, the colour of our skin, our hair, our backgrounds, whether we are rich or poor, we have stories in common. And that's what we're celebrating today on this, the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, they're coming into autumn. I want to acknowledge the great people of Galway 2020, even though we're now in 2021. There's Joe Vahi, Nollaig McGuinness and Liz Kelly, and now Marilyn Gahan-Redden, who were all so enthusiastic about this idea of celebrating storytelling and storytellers from different cultures across Europe. I I want to acknowledge the support of our European colleagues in FEST, the Federation for European Storytelling, who, thanks to the support of Creative Europe, agreed to fund the travelling expenses of storytellers from France and Italy to come to Ireland, originally to tour in Galway and on the Aran Islands, along with Irish Scéalaíocht. The dream was they would share and swap and enjoy stories with you all. Well, I don't have to tell you what happened. Everybody is at home now and very few are travelling. But we never gave up on the idea. Today, I'm delighted to introduce to you all the people we dreamt about, the storytellers we wanted to invite. We are in different places, but they will be here today together with you, with stories and music to share, thanks to the help of the wizard of the internet. We can't travel, but the stories can, as they always have, ever since we humans were in our caves. So, buinigí sult as na scéalta.
Thank you, Marlon and Ndula. The stage is set, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. The stories are flowing, the music is playing, and the songs are being sung. Enjoy World Storytelling Day with Scéalaíocht Storia Contes.
Máirín Mhic Lochlainn is scéalaí tradiisiúnta me is cantar chosáige ngailtocht Conamara agus siad a chéalainn san scéalaí tradiisiúnta ná ghair me chuid scéalta óma for sin ón na bháidiad agus for se ón na head héine tánig na scéalta nuas sam ó glún go glún. I'm Máirín Mhic Lochlainn, a storyteller, a traditional storyteller from Cosharige in the Connemara Gaeltacht. And I got the stories from my father, who got them from his mother, and she got it from her parents before her. We got them. The stories came down to me from one generation to the other. Such Gael, fui chunan míl agus a chailech. Bhí chunan míl láháin I siúl le cládach a Connemara. Agus an pócamóra bhí ar isgurta lán le bí a cláda. Bhí waidin caite ag a rábiocha. Agus ní a bhhad a bisúltaige na a hit cloch an os as a spade. Conal Mail was walking along the seashore one morning and he had his pocket full of shellfish. And the next thing, a stone fell down from the sky. Now, bhí sé ráite faoi Conal Mail, gur sé an bhála cuiinúid héin. Agus bhí písa be gaile siúltaige na a chuoine sé nach dit an cloch an os as a spade, agus na a chuoine sé sin. Chuoine sé ar a gaiilech a bhí head ar a muireann a gunda chláid agus bhreanna sé said, agus bhí sí head an siúd agus trís go gá chluisar. It took him a while to remember or to cap on that the stone fell from the sky. And when he remembered that, he remembered that there was a cailleach who lived on the burren. And he looked over and there she was with a big grin on her face. Bhí sé go mag a bíon cha an chloch. Agus amach céala betheige ní thuúra sé arda bethara ach ní ra ein chéal leige. Agus berin sé ar chloch mhór agus caim sé sar lei. If he had any sense now, he would ignore the cailleach. But Conal Mail didn't have any sense at all. So he took a huge stone and he threw it over at the cailleach. And the cailleach got a bigger stone and she threw it over at Conal Mail all the way across Galway Bay. Agus bhí sí brás ásta le héad mar bhí sí rágamach an lá go deoice a cá clocha le Conal Mail. Agus bedan Conal Mail ar chlochmór eile agus caim sé trasna leis a gaiilechaí agus chuile húla díige go mullite an tamseáid. He got another huge stone and he threw it over at the cailleach and he was hoping he would get her this time. But he didn't. But it went so near, the stone did, that it took the skin off her nose. Inis ceapa go mat sí gortaí ach ní roiseach ar a sí dawnsa agus bhíon strís a méadúara. Sure, the cailleach was delighted. It didn't take a thing out of her to have the skin taken off her nose. She was over there on the burren shouting and dancing and laughing. Agus rug sí ar chlochmór eile, agus chroch sí, agus chaisi sí ar tras na hónaí, agus tite na chloch isteach san isce a náitir a Conal Mail a siúl. She got another huge rock this time. She lifted it and she threw it and it fell into the sea right beside where Conal Mail was walking. Agus tá san ar fad cad a Harlín na a hit an clochmór isteach san isce. Hánig muim mhór bhílteach agus bathú Conal Mail ó bhar a chin go dtí bunach í chosa. We all know what happens when a huge rock falls into the sea. There was a big splash and Conal Mail was drenched from the top of his head to the bottom of his toes. Nis bhí ucrasa, bhí cantal le bhí sé ar buile ar fad agus breanin sé na hímpel agus fecinn sé carrig mhór bhílteach. Berin sé ara agus crochan sé agus cain sé agus bullin sé an chaileach ar chlár na baise. He looked around the seashore and he saw a huge rock and he got the rock, he lifted it and he threw it across Galway Bay and he hit the cailleach over on the burren in the middle of her forehead and hit she mean mar van siúd head an muireann. Ach cad a hála ó héin, bhí an neirit sin fórsa le cána cloche, gur phléas go fóca mór agus gurhuit méid sligáin nó méid bíacláda a bhí bailíige a gána maidine gurhuit siad amachchan siúd in a meáil mór mílte goháin. There was such a force behind the throwing of the stone that his pocket burst and all the shellfish that he had collected all morning fell out there in one big lump. Agus mar a gredin sib sin is mise ma hen sib siargad I bailan chuiráin. Feice sib in sin an meáil mór slúgáin sa náit fléisc pócachan an mail. Now, if you don't believe me, you can go back to the village of Cuiran, and if you go down to the bottom of the road, you will see the mound of shells that fell out of Conan Wheel's pocket all those years ago. They are still there, and they're down as an archaeologist site, and it's called a shell mitten. A chamáile sin, ma bhreanin se berwapa go chun den chláir feice sib ceann cailí sa náitir huit an chaileach. If you look at an English map, you can see it in English. Where the cailleach fell, it is called Tag said to this day. Agus sin enis mar scéalsa, ma tá breag an bích, ní me se chum ná cheapa. And that now is the story of Conan Wheel and the cailleach. It's not me who composed it, but there is such a place as the Shell Mitten, Conan Wheel, and there is such a place on the map as Ceann Cailí, agus má tá breag an bích, and if it's a lie, so be it, it's not my fault.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, little ones and grown-up ones. This is Paola from Italy, although now I'm in Dubai.
And Davide from Rome. Ciao a tutti.
We are the artistic directors and main storytellers of Raccontamiunastori storytelling company based in Rome.
And we are very happy to be with you today to tell you some story from our country, Italia.
Now, the stories we're going to tell you are about a very special character of our folk tradition. His name is Jufa. Although, you know what? Some people argue that this character, for real, was born in Turkey. And his original name was Nazareddin. But some others say he was from home. And others, he was from North Africa, where they call him Oja. Here in Dubai, they promise he is from the Middle East. He's from Palestine or Syria or Jordan or further down in our desert here in Dubai and the Arabic Peninsula, where they call him Juha or Goha. Yes, it may. Some people say he was very, very full. Some other people say he was very, very wise. We'll let it to you to decide. Once upon a time, Jufa was still a young lad, a young boy, living with his own mother. But let me tell you, his mother wasn't happy about him. She had to do all kind of jobs in the house. His mother was the one sweeping the floor, chopping the wood for the fire, doing all cooking, all cleaning, all everything you can think of in the house. She was doing all washing up, all dusting. And Jufa, he was just lazy, idle all day. He wouldn't study, he wouldn't work, he wouldn't even go fishing to bring some food at home. Therefore, one day his mother decided that when is enough is enough. Jufa, my son, from today you shall have a job. A job, mother? Yes, a job. I'm going to give you an easy one. You'll become a merchant. A merchant, mother. Yes? Now see this fine piece of cotton cloth? You will bring it to the souk, to the market in the village, and you will sell it to a good customer. Yes, ma. As you say, ma. Fair enough. Off you go, said the mother. But listen to me, one little piece of advice. When you are there in the market, sell your goods to a quiet customer. Understand? Do not follow, do not listen to these chatty, gossipy women. Find a decent, quiet person. Understand? Yes, ma'am. Silent customer, ma'am. Sell the piece of cloth, ma'am. Yes, as you said, ma'am. And lazy Jufa, off he goes from his house. He walks. He walks until he arrives at the village. And right in the center of the village, there is the market in the square. And in the market, there is the fishmonger and the butcher and the fruit seller and the vegetable and the spice sellers. And all the women who are buying here and there, they all see Jufa and they address him. Oh, hi, how are you? Have you come instead of your mother today? How is she? I shall pass and come by this afternoon. Hey, Jufa, come here, show us. What have you got on your shoulders? What a nice piece of cloth. Jufa, he takes his mother's advice very seriously. She said, quiet, silent customer. Therefore, are these good customers? No. And he doesn't stop. He keeps on walking. He walks and he walks until he crosses the whole square and he takes a secondary road. Now, that is quieter. There are shops on one hand and the other end. And there are other ladies there, and they also address him when they see him. Oh, are you not the son of such and such who lives up the hill? Oh, where is your mother? Why isn't she here today? Oh, show us this nice piece of cloth. Are these good customers? Indeed, no, by his mother's standards. And Jufa decides not to stop, and he carries forward with his mouth shut until he arrives in a yard in between buildings. It's very quiet, and in the middle of this little square there is a statue like this, the statue of a woman. Juha sees the statue and he addresses her. Oh, hello, how are you? The statue keeps silent and still. Oh, that's a good sign, thinks Jufa. This is very good sign. My lady, would you like to buy this fine piece of cloth that my mother has for sale? The statue. Oh, very good, thinks Juha. Getting right there. Oh, this, would you like to buy it from me? Please, this is very good quality. My mother would be so happy. You are such a good silent customer. The statue. Eventually, Juha is so satisfied about this quiet customer, just as his mother said, that he hangs the piece of fabric around her arms. Oh, I take your silence for an agreement. You shall buy my piece of cloth. He puts it there and off he goes. He walks at home and his mother sees him from the window and she sees that indeed he is merry and jolly. Business might have gone very well. The mother welcomes him at the door. Hi, my son. How did it go? Oh, very well, mother. Did you sell the cloth? Of course, mother. Very good, said the mother. Where is the money? Money, mother? You didn't talk about money this morning. You just told me sell it to a quiet customer. This is what I've done. The mother. Juha, you fool! If I tell you to become a merchant, you sell something, you get money for a change, understand? Now, you run to your customer and you'd better find the money from her. Yes, ma, as you said, ma. And Jufa, he runs back to the village. He doesn't like his mother's angry face. He runs and runs and runs. He crosses the market square where all women are again addressing him. Hey, Jufa, are you back here? What are you up to? Why are you running so fast? He doesn't talk to them. He runs. He takes a secondary road. He arrives in the yard. In the yard, there is indeed still the statue. But now, do you think the piece of cloth is still hanging there? Of course not. Somebody has taken it. And Juha says, my lady, excuse me, you bought earlier on a piece of fine cotton from me and you forgot to pay. So I'm here to collect the money. The statue. Juha says, did you listen to me? You bought from me earlier a piece of cloth. Please, can you pay for it? Juha is is getting nervous. My mother sent me back to collect the payment. Please, my lady, can you hand me my due? Juha is getting angry. I said, you need to pay for the clothes you bought from my mother. Now give me the money or I'll teach you a lesson. Okay then, it's you who wanted them. It's you who are driving me to violence, said Juha. He steps backward and he runs forward and bangs the statue with his head. And the statue. And then, now, will you pay me? Juha runs back again and again forward and bang. And then bang and bang and bang and bang again and again and again until the statue breaks into two. And now inside, at the foot of the statue, there is a bag, a leather purse. Juha takes it, he opens it, and it's full of golden coins. Ooh la la, this is a fair payment indeed. Thank you very much. He takes the bag and he starts walking home. Now you know. Little he knew that night, a band of thieves had come close to the statue, and they had hidden their stolen items inside. Juha is walking with the money towards his house. His mother sees him from the window. He is indeed merry, he is jolly. And his mother says, my son, did you get the money? Of course, mother, here it is. Wow. The mother sees a bag full of coins. She opens it, gold. Oh, very well done, my son. Was it easy? Not really, mother. Oh, didn't you want to pay you? No, mother, but I tell you, I banged and I banged and I banged and I banged the customer until she gave me my due. And so it was that for once, Juha and his mother, they ate well for a while.
Now in this story, Juha is a young man. He's living alone, now with his mother, alone in his little house in the middle of the village. Now one day, Juha, he received an invitation to go to a banquet organized in one of the biggest palaces of the village. He was super happy because on the letter, on the invitation, there was written the entire menu, and all the dishes of the menu were delicious. He was super happy. Therefore, he cleaned the shelf beside the door and he placed the invitation right on top of the shelf. And every day he would pass in front of it, and every day he would say, I know you, my friend. When the day will come, I will go to eat at the splendid banquet. And time passed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, and in the end, an entire month. And finally, the day of the banquet came. And that day, Juha, he knew very well what to do. He woke up early in the morning. He got a shower outside. And then he entered his own bedroom. He opened his wardrobe and he took one of his best garments. and he put it on. And then he cleaned his hair, he cleaned his beard, he rubbed his long moustache, he cleaned his shoes, he took the invitation and he put the invitation in his pocket. He opened the door and off he went. And he was so happy that as he was walking towards the palace, he was singing his song. Giufà, Giufà è il mio nome, Salam Giufà, Giufà è il mio nome, Giufà, Giufà è il mio nome, Giufà, voilà, Giufà è il mio nome. E camminava, and he was walking until he got on the other side of the village, right in front of the palace. Now, in front of the palace, in front of the door, was standing the doorman of the banquet, a guardian of the banquet, a tall man, big, standing there like this. As the guard of the banquet, he sees with his eyes Giufà, the fool of the village, walking towards him, jumping, singing, with an invitation in the pocket. The guard of the banquet, he looked at him with very narrow eyes, and then he looked him up, and then he looked him down, and then he looked him up, and then he looked him
Down.
and then he looked him
Up.
and then again,
Down.
and then he said, "I'm sorry, sir, but you cannot come in." "What?" said Giufà. "Why can't I come in? I have the invitation, right? On the invitation, there is written my name. My name is Giufà. So explain to me, why can't I come in?" "I understand," said the guard of the banquet, "but you are not allowed in because you are not appropriately dressed for this banquet." And Giufà, imagine, Giufà didn't know what to do. But for sure he didn't want to discuss with that man stronger and bigger than him. Therefore he took the invitation, he put the invitation back in the pocket, and back he went to his home. He opened the door, he left the invitation on the shelf, he went in the bedroom, he opened the wardrobe, he took off the first garment, and he chose another one, another garment, more elegant than the first one. And he put it on. Giufà, Giufà il mio nome, Giufà, Giufà il mio nome. And then he cleaned his hair, he cleaned his long beard, he rubbed his mustache, he cleaned the shoes, he took the invitation, he put the invitation in the pocket, he opened the door, and again for the second time off he went. And as he was walking, he began to sing his favorite song, his song. Giufà, Giufà il mio nome, and he was walking Giufà, and he was happy now. He was going to eat the magnificent food of the banquet, and he was walking, la la la, until he came to the other side of the village, in front of the palace. And again, in front of the palace, my friends, you know, there is the guard of the palace. When the guard of the palace sees again the fool of the village, Giufà, approaching towards him, he looked at him with narrow eyes, and then he looked him up, and then he looked him down, and then he looked him up and down, and up and down, and up and down, and then he said, "I'm sorry, sir, but you cannot come in." "What?" said Giufà. "I've been home," said Giufà. "I've changed my garment. Look, I have the invitation. On the invitation there is written my name. My name is Giufà, so why can't I come in?" "You cannot come in," said the doorman, "because you are not properly dressed for this banquet." And Giufà, he was desperate. He took the invitation, he put the invitation back in the pocket, he went back home, he opened the door, he left the invitation on the shelf, he entered his own bedroom, he opened again the wardrobe, and he took another garment, the best one, silk, and he put it on, and then he cleaned his hair, he cleaned his beard, he rubbed his mustache, he cleaned his shoes, he took the invitation, he put the invitation in the pocket, he he opened the door and off he went. But that time he was so angry that he began to run. And he ran, and he ran, and he ran. And he was running with the invitation in the pocket. He wanted to enter the palace. He wanted to eat the magnificent, splendid, delicious food of the banquet. And he ran until he got another time in front of the palace, in front of the guard of the palace. And when the guard of the palace he sees arriving, again, the fool of the village Jufa, with the invitation in the pocket, very angry, the doorman, the guard of the village, of the banquet, he looked at him up and down, up and down, up and down, and then said, "Welcome, sir. You can go in." And Jufa, he passed in front of the guard and he looked at him and he said, "Remember, my name is Jufa." And he entered the royal palace. Now the palace, the room was big. There were tables everywhere, tables in this way, in that way, people talking about this, talking about that. And Jufa, with the invitation in his pocket, he went all around finding his place. And then he sees an empty chair. And in front of the chair on the table, there was a piece of paper. And on the piece of paper, there was written, "Jufa." And Jufa said, "I found my place. This is where I'm going to sit and eat my food." And he said, "Hello, Jufa, buongiorno, come va?" "Ah, molto bene, molto bene. Sei venuto a mangiare al banchetto?" "Ah, sì, oggi mangeremo bene al banchetto. Buon appetito, buon appetito." Somebody clapped his hands. And all the door of the kitchen were opened, and the waiters came, bringing the first course of the menu. And the first course was a big plate with spaghetti with tomato Italian sauce. They were smoking with Parmigiano cheese on top, and people were speechless in front of such a beautiful dish of spaghetti. And everybody, they started to eat spaghetti with the fork. And they were delicious. But when Jufa, he received the spaghetti in front of him, my friend, he did a very strange thing. Instead of eating spaghetti, he put his hands in the spaghetti and he threw spaghetti everywhere. He took spaghetti and he put spaghetti in his pocket. He took spaghetti here in his shirt. He opened his legs and he dropped spaghetti here and on the back, and he put spaghetti in the shoes. And all the people sitting around him, they said, "Oh, this man is disgusting. Who has invited the fool of the village to eat among us?" But nobody said anything to this strange man. Now the first course was brought out, and the second course was brought in. And the second course was a big plate with a great variety of food. There were meat and vegetables and tomato and potatoes, and all the people, they started enjoying the delicious food. But when Jufa, again, my friend, when Jufa, he received the second plate in front of him, he did the same strange thing. Instead of eating the food, he put his hands into the food and he threw the food all over his body. He took the meat and he put the meat in his pocket. Carefully, he took potatoes and he filled his shirt of potatoes. He took vegetables and he put vegetables in the pocket, inside, in his shoes. And all the people, they said, "But we have to call for the owner to come. This man is disgusting. Call the owner of the banquet. We must do something." And now, the owner of the banquet, he came. And the owner of the banquet, imagine, he was an elegant man with a deep voice. And the owner of the banquet, he approached Jufa. He looked at him and he said, "Excuse me, sir, may I see your invitation?" And Jufa, he took the invitation and he gave it to the owner of the banquet. The host of the banquet, he took the invitation he could read Juffa on the letter, and he could read Juffa on the table. And he said, "Sir, I can see that you have been invited, and you are most welcome to sit here and to enjoy our splendid banquet and food. But please, because I call for the dessert to come, can you explain to everybody, why did you do that? Why did you do such a thing?" And Juffa, he stood up, and this was when he began to explain. And he said, "I tell you, the first time I came here, your doorman, your guard, didn't allow me to enter the banquet because he said that I was not appropriately dressed. Therefore, I went back home. I changed my garment. But again, for the second time, your doorman, he said I was still not appropriately dressed for the banquet. Therefore, I went back home for the third time. And this time, I was really elegant. Indeed, your guard allowed me to enter the banquet. Therefore, said Juffa, it seems to me that you and your guard have not invited me to the banquet, but you have invited my clothes. And this is why I will not eat your food, but my clothes will eat your food at my place. And this was when the dessert was entering, and he was a bowl of dark chocolate with Sicilian red strawberries. And Juffa, he took the chocolate, he jumped on the table, and he began dropping the chocolate all over his body and moving as if he was having a shower of dark chocolate. Voila! And this is the end of the story, my friend. The story where Juffa gave a lesson to all the villagers about the real meaning of hospitality. And then time passed. And one day Juffa, he got married. Yeah, he was a man. He got married with a beautiful and fine woman. He loved her. But as soon as he married her, Juffa realized the terrible mistake he did. Because by marrying his wife, now Juffa had to fight against the greatest of all enemy. An enemy, a terrible enemy, a wicked enemy. Even wicked than death, not a donkey, not a neighbor, do you have any idea, Paola?
I don't know, a witch?
No.
A monster?
No. Much bigger than
the tax collector?
No. The greatest of all enemies.
A woman, for sure.
A woman, but a kind of woman. The mother-in-law. Oh, the mother-in-law of Juffa was terrible. He was evil, cruel. He was always opposite. Oppositive. Not opposite, oppositive. She was always oppositive. For instance, my friend, if Juffa would say 1, the mother-in-law would reply
2.
She was always so positive that if Juffa, for instance, would say black, the mother-in-law would reply
white, for sure.
If Juffa would say up, the mother-in-law, she was down. If Juffa would say, for instance, back, the mother-in-law would reply
forward.
She was always positive. Now one day Juffa, he's in his own home, fixing something by doing some work, when suddenly the neighbor of Juffa, he entered in a rush in Juffa's house, trembling, sweating, and he said, "Oh, Juffa, something strange happened, something terrible happened to your mother-in-law." "What happened?" said Juffa. "Oh, Juffa, your mother-in-law, she went to the river. She was washing her clothes, and probably she fainted. She dropped in the water, and she drowned, and with the flow now, she's going to the valley. Come with us, Juffa. We must go and search for her." And all the villagers with Juffa, they ran to the river, and they went in the right place where The mother-in-law was washing her clothes, and there was the soap, there was the clothes, and all the neighbors, they said, let's go downstream, let's go and search for her downstream. And all the people, they started to run towards the valley downstream. But Jufa, instead of following them, he began calmly to walk upstream towards the mountain. And all the neighbors, they said, hey, Jufa, are you stupid or what? Didn't we tell you that your mother-in-law, she just fainted on the water, and now we have to go and search for her downstream in the valley? But Jufa said, my friend, the neighbors, you do not know my mother-in-law. She is always so positive that she would never go with the flow. So if you want to go and search for her and find my mother-in-law, instead of going downstream, you have to go upstream. You have to go against the tide. And this is what happened that day. And this is the end of the story, my friend, but also the end of Jufa's mother-in-law.
Well, but he survived her, and he lived many more years, but he remained the same. Il lupo perde il pelo, ma non il vizio. We say in Italy, the wolf loses his fur, but not his vice. And he kept on being lazy all his life long, and before his mother shouted at him, after his mother-in-law, and now his wife. He never found a job until one day he ran to his house all excited, and he told his wife, wife, I got a job. You got a job? Yes, wife, a real one, a proper job. Really? And what is it? Oh, wife, you would never believe it. I am to be the king's own gardener. Oh, husband. Oh, congratulations. Eventually we're settled. Oh, I'm so happy. And the following morning, Juha, he took all his utensils, his scissors, his knives, his shovel, and off he goes to start his job as the king's gardener. And now he's there in the great garden close to the palace. He takes out his scissors and he starts trimming a bush. And he thinks, see, I can do what everyone else do. I can have a job and I can hold it, and my wife is so proud and the king is satisfied. But then all of a sudden he sees through the leaves 2 hollow eyes looking back at him. He steps back as he sees the eyes belongs to a very white and skinny face, dressed in black with a cape, and very bony fingers are coming out of the sleeves, and he understands he is in front of Lady Death. As soon as he sees her, Jufa, he drops the scissors and he runs. He runs all the way to the king. He bows low and he says, Majesty, I need to go. What? Says the king. I just offered you one of the best jobs in the palace and you want to leave me. I'm so happy with you. Majesty, I'm so sorry. I need to leave the job. Actually, if you wish to give me a favor, please, can I borrow one of your fastest horses? Because you see, I might run away from death. Oh, the king is displeased. He's sorry that his gardener is leaving after one day only, but he says, wait a moment. I'm going to write you a letter of recommendation. If you go to the other side of the world, to the great city of Samarkanda, there is a sultan. This is the king of the land. You're going to give him this letter. He will hire you as his gardener. Oh, Majesty, thank you. You're very generous, Majesty. Thank you very much. Jufa, he takes the letter, he goes to the stable, he jumps on a horse, and he starts galloping. He gallops. He never stops. Not for drinking, not for eating, not for sleeping. He keeps galloping. He's sweating. The horse is knackered, but he keeps on galloping. He gallops and gallops and gallops. They're all both exhausted, the horse and the man, but they keep on going and going and going. He goes as fast as the wind. He goes and he thinks at the hollow heights of Lady Death, until eventually he gets to the other end of the world, a long journey all the way from Sicily, his native land, to Samarkand. And then he stops. Oh. He gets off the horse, he looks back, nobody. He opens a big gate of the king's palace, he enters. When he arrives in front of the king, he bows low, he hands him the letter of his own king, the king of Sicily. The king of Samarkand, he takes the letter, he reads it. Welcome, Jufa. My dear friend, the king of Sicily is recommending you as gardener, and indeed I will hire your services. And all happy and relieved, Jufa, he goes down the steps again. He enters the garden and he sets to work immediately to impress the king. He takes the scissors and he starts trimming a bush. You see, I made it. And I have a job. But all of a sudden, through the leaves, through the blades, he sees the same hollow eyes, the bony face, the white fingers, the black cape. He cannot believe it. Lady Death had followed him all the way. And now, she says, you are about to come. Why did you follow me? I met you yesterday in Sicily and I ran away all the way here. Why did you follow me like that? And Lady Death, she looks at him. And there is a surprise hint in her eyes. And she says, you know, I was about to ask you the same question. I knew I was meant to meet you here today in Samarkand. And when I saw you yesterday by chance in Sicily, I thought, how is that possible? He can be there in 24 hours. And that was a day when Jufa, like anyone at some point, had to follow Lady Death. But I bet his adventure went on in the other world. Thank you.
Grazie.
Scéalaíocht. My name is Monique Burg. I come from southwest France in an area called Périgord, and I'm really happy to be here for the Scéalaíocht Storia Contes festival. In my area, we speak French, but we also speak another language, which comes from the Latin, which is called Occitan. And in my stories or my songs, you are going to hear a bit of this language. Caccarinetta da riderietta saretona dau per lo cornabau, nota pulo blanson abbia in bello renalo libulio per ne fare tifle, caccarinetta da riderietta saretona dau per lo cornabau. Our white hen had a beak. Fox wanted it to make it into a whistle. Do you think she gave it to him? Nota pulo blanca nevana pauta, lorenala libulio pepishmie grotta, cancarinetta zaridrietta saretona dau bello cornabau. Our white hen had 2 feet. Fox wanted them to scratch himself better. Do you think she gave them to him? Once upon a time, there was a man and his son. The son had a name like everybody, like you, like me. But the father never called him by his name. He used to call him Minzo Pocanoi Cano Pasempasho. He who eats bread when he's got some and goes without when he hasn't got any. And occasionally, because it was a bit long, he would call him Shentuforiam. We could do without you. The father used to moan every morning when he got up. Perché calce le va? Well, because you've got to go to work, I suppose. E perché trovaria? To feed this one, that was the child as well. The child has got a name, but the father doesn't give the child his name. And one day, when he's angry, even more than usual, the father turns to his son and says, "She pugioi te lugorio il diable." Yes, you heard well. He said that if he could, he would hire him out to the devil. He would send him to work for the devil. Well, just need to ask. Here comes the devil, who says to the father, I can take him. He will work for me. I'll teach him everything I know. And at the end of the year, if you want to pick him up, you can. And if he worked well, I can even give you some money. When the father hears the word money, he pushes his son into the devil's arms and he goes back home. Finished the moaning. He can go to bed when he wants to. He can get up when he wants to. He can go to work if he wants to and sleep every time he wants to. But at the end of the year, he realizes that he still doesn't want to go to work and that he hasn't got any money. But he remembers that he's got a son, and that if he wants to, he can pick him up at the end of the year. And this is the end of the year. We are the end of the year. So he runs to the devil to pick up his son. Benicere mundrolli. Well, the devil says, let's see if you can find him first. Let's go to the stables. 300 horses, as dark as a moonless night, looking at the father looking at them all. Hey, Paki. Well, the devil says, if he's not here, let's go to the pigeon's loft. 300 pigeons, as round and grey as little river stones, looking at the father looking at them. Hey, Paki. Well, the devil says, if he's not here, let's go to the rabbit hutches. 300 rabbits, as white as fresh snow, looking at the father looking at them. Hey, up! Suddenly he sees a rabbit scratching his ear. His ear! As soon as he says that the rabbit is someone he knows, immediately the rabbit turns into a boy, his son. The devil is disappointed. You're taking my best apprentice. And I don't know if you remember, but if you don't remember, the father, he remembers. So he holds out his hand because the devil promised And the devil always keeps his promises, and he puts in his hand an amount of money he would have never dreamt of having. And there he goes back home, counting and recounting his money on the way back, and his child is running behind him. As soon as he can catch up with his father, he tells him, Sciabe, io pre tu 4 facce al diable, e se me cute, me podi, te fa gogna, mai coco. When the father hears that his son has learnt a lot of the devils, and that if he listens to him, he can earn even more, well, he stops counting his money and he starts listening to his son. Me bau cambia en cobal, e me bendra lu preke burla, me shibretu bende pamo brida, che pur je petuna in rolle opre. When the son tells his father that he's going to turn into a horse, that he can sell this horse at the fair the price he wants, but he mustn't sell the bridle or else he would never come back to being a boy again. The father says, Bendi palobridi, keeps repeating, I won't sell the bridle. And immediately his son turns into a magnificent horse the father is taking to the fair by the bridle. And he keeps repeating, I won't sell the bridle, I won't sell the bridle. When he gets to the fair, the people around just want to get closer and look at this horse. They've never seen such a horse on this fair. He's so unusual. And suddenly a man arrives on the fair. A man as beautiful as the horse, some people say. The kind of man you never see at a fair. The man we call back home the other one, the devil. The father doesn't even recognize him when he asks him, how much you want for your horse? The father thinks of a price, multiplies it by 2, by 3, and then he stops because he can't count any further. And the devil gives him exactly the amount he asked for. And this time he needs both his hands to catch all the money. And there is so much that it spills on the floor. And everybody helps him to catch up the money, which is rolling on the ground. Nobody's jealous. Everybody is happy for him. He had such a beautiful horse. And suddenly he stands up, pressing his money on his chest, and he suddenly remembers. You remember as well. Hep! Bendi lu cabal, ma bendi palo brido. The devil was walking back home, holding by the bridle. The horse boy turns round and says to the father, how do you want me to take away this horse if I haven't got a bridle? This will pay for it. And he throws a handful of money to the father for the bridle. And here he is, kneeling on the ground, gathering his money and counting, whilst the devil is taking his horse son to his place. When the devil arrives home, he tells a servant, lock this horse, lock him away, give him brambles with as many thorns as you can, and I'll eat him tomorrow. When the horse boy hears what the devil is saying, he starts kicking the ground. The devil grabs a big stick, but before he can beat the poor horse boy, the horse boy has turned into a salmon who jumps into the river. The devil turns into an otter who swims behind the salmon. The salmon turns into a chaffinch who flies away. The otter turns into a falcon who flies behind the chaffinch. The chaffinch turns into a ring who falls at the bride's feet. A bride who picks it up, puts it at her finger, saying that it's much prettier than the one the bridegroom gave her, isn't it? The falcon turns into a flute player who gets the people of the wedding dancing away. And the bride tells him, oh, tell me what you want as a present. You got them to dance so well. Please let me know and I'll give it to you. He points out the ring. Well, she said, whatever you want. So with regret, she pulls up the ring with so much regret that it falls to the ground. When it gets to the ground, the ring has become a grain of millet. The flute player becomes a hen who starts scratching the ground looking for the grain of millet. The grain of millet becomes a fox who cuts the hen's neck. The fairy who lives in the woods arrives, strokes the fox's head. The fox who turns into a boy. A boy who tells his father, you go your way and I'll go my way. Ekrak, mun conte Jacaba. Nota pura blanca navia imbello renalo di budio per infane tifle cancarinetta the ridrietta saretona dau per lo cornavau. Our white hen had a beak. Fox wanted it to turn it into a whistle. Do you think she gave it to him? Nota pura blanca navia nala lorenala di budio per pesce miei vulla cancarinetta the ridrietta saretona dau per lo cornavau. Our white hen had wings. Fox wanted them to fly better. Do you think she gave them to him? Nota pura blanca navia nacqua, le renale di budio per ne fare cubo, cancarinetta, ridrietta, saretona dau per lo cornavau. A white hen had a tail. Fox wanted it to make it into a broom. Do you think she gave it to him? Nota pura blanca navia pauta, le renale di budio per pesce miei gratta, cancarinetta, ridrietta, saretona dau per lo cornavau. A white hen had 2 feet. Fox wanted them to scratch himself better. Do you think she gave them to him? Nota pura blanca navia nacqua, l'orenale di budio per ne fare cubo, cancarinetta.